Welcome to the ranch and welcome to my kitchen. I'm so excited to have you here. In this chapter, we are going to be making my rustic tomato sauce. It's such a delicious tomato sauce that you can enjoy on pasta, and then in the dead of winter, a lot of times I'll just make it into a tomato soup. It's so, so good. In this chapter, I'm going to go step by step. After I show you how to make rustic tomato sauce, I'm going to be using a pressure canner because tomatoes are low acid and perfect for a pressure canner. I love making my rustic tomato sauce. The reality is there's no way I could possibly eat, or really our whole community could possibly eat all the tomatoes that are growing right now. And so this is really a time of year that we want to save all of that. I love to just be able to make all of these beautiful canned goods so I can really enjoy it throughout the year. I'm gonna start with 20 Roma tomatoes. When I'm making my tomato sauce, I always use Roma tomatoes because they just have so much more flavor. They're more condensed and they're not so watered down. So these are great for making sauces. So I'm gonna wash these tomatoes fresh from the garden. I like to get big-sized Romas. They have so many different varieties, but I love these. And now I'm going to show you a really quick way to quickly peel them. Okay, so I have a pot of boiling water, and now I'm gonna get a big bowl of really ice-cold water. Oops. Now I'm gonna fill this bad boy with some ice. And the reason that we're doing this is we're gonna put the tomatoes in the boiling water for about a minute or two, and then put them in this cold water. And the cold water is gonna really help open up those skins and very, very simply peel off the skin. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna put these tomatoes in the boiling water. The fancy word to say this is we're going to blanch them and then shock them. So we're just gonna take these tomatoes, we're not doing anything to them, we're just gonna put them in. You see they're starting to break. Once they start breaking, then we can quickly put them into the ice cold water. In this recipe, I'm using 20 Roma tomatoes, and it's gonna make about 3 cans of tomato sauce. If you're wanting to make a huge batch, just double the recipe, triple it, quadruple it, have fun. I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna immediately put it into the cold water. If they are brand new or right off the vine, sometimes they won't crack. So you wanna make sure that you're at least leaving them in for 30 seconds. I'm doing 10 at a time, so I'm able to keep track on which ones have been in. So now we're ready to peel. Okay, and look how easily they peel. So simple. And then I'm just gonna take off the top. And what I like to do is just kind of put them in chunks. It doesn't have to be exact, just we're cutting them up. And then you can just leave the skins in the bowl. Okay, here's one that didn't burst. You can see that it's still gonna be very easy to peel. With the Romas, they're still holding together, so they're not as juicy as, you know, like an early girl tomato, and so that's why I love to use Roma tomatoes. Okay, so we have peeled all the tomatoes. Now we're gonna start the sauce. So right now I'm gonna cut 1 medium onion. You can just do a rough chop of onions. I love cooking with onions, and so we grow a whole bunch every year. They really keep really well. And we're gonna throw that into the pot. Turn that on. We're gonna add in about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Then I'm gonna put in garlic. I'm gonna put in 3 cloves of garlic. I'm just rough chopping this garlic. Okay, we're gonna put this in with the onions. Okay, we're gonna put this on a medium heat. And I'm gonna stir these onions until they're translucent or golden brown. I'm gonna add in a tablespoon of salt, stir it in. Okay, so we're gonna now put in all of the tomatoes. It's okay to get all the juices from the tomatoes in there. You just pour it all in because now we're gonna cook it down in that tomato juice. So basically I'm bringing it to a simmer, usually about 10 minutes, and then we'll let it kind of sit in all those juices and really meld their flavors together. What I like to do while it's at a simmer, if there's any big chunks that you're like, it's just too big, I like to just smush them against the side. Okay, now I'm gonna put in a tablespoon of sugar. The sugar is really important because tomatoes can have a really acidic taste, and so this will really balance out that flavor. For the last step, I'm just gonna add in some basil. And I just like to just rip the basil up and put it straight in. So I'm gonna do about 1 cup of fresh cut basil. I feel like basil, onions, garlic, these are things that are just my go-tos. So now at this point, we really have this tomato sauce ready to go. Always important though to taste before you finish your product. Get a little bit of everything. It's so good. It's so good. Yum. Oh my gosh. So now that the sauce is ready to go, you're gonna turn off the heat, you're gonna close it up, and we're gonna start prepping the jars so we can use the pressure canner method. I'm gonna fill up my canning pot. This is my water bath canning pot. What we're trying to do here is we're just gonna heat up the jars. Okay, so we're just gonna bring these to a boil. Okay, I'm gonna put that at the back of the stove, and I'm gonna prep my canning station. So now I've boiled the jars. I'm just gonna warm my sauce so that it's warm and also my jars are warm. And now we're ready to can. It's really important when you are canning tomatoes of any kind that you use a store-bought lemon juice. I always love using fresh lemons everywhere I go, but this is the time that I buy a store-bought lemon juice because the acidity level is just at the point that you need it to be. The lemon juice is gonna go into the jar before I put in the tomato sauce. And here we go. These are pint jars. So the rule of thumb is, with a pint jar, it's 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. So I'm gonna just take 1 tablespoon of lemon juice and just pour it in at the bottom. Put my funnel. Now remember, these jars nice and hot. So you wanna make sure everything is staying nice and hot. And you wanna make sure that you're also getting a good mixture of the sauce, but also all of the tomatoes. With this particular recipe, we need to have a 1/4 inch headspace. Headspace is the space between the sauce and the lid, where the lid is gonna sit. And now we're going to clean off the rim of the jar. It's really important that you have this nice and clean so that when you put on the lid, it seals really well. So now we're gonna take that, put it right on top, go back in, grab the band. You just want to close the jar, and I've already put 2 to 3 inches of water in the pressure canner. So we're gonna put the jar, and then we're gonna fill the next jar. I love these wands. Otherwise, you're just trying to get all of the lids out without burning yourself, so the wands are fun. Okay, last jar, putting it in. And now we're ready to start the pressure canning method. So I'm gonna put some oil on to help the seal. This is olive oil. If you want more details on how to use a pressure canner, check out the pressure canning chapter. It goes in great detail of how to use a pressure canner. Rocket launch. We're about to take off. Want to make sure that you do this all by hand and not use something to really crank it. You just do it until it's nice and tight. Now I'm gonna turn on the heat. This recipe, it uses a 10 PSI, which is 10 pounds per square inch. Once this is steaming, I'm gonna put this pressure controller right on top of that, and this will help gauge how much pressure is actually in the canning pot. So now that it's ready to go, we're gonna set the timer for 20 minutes. It's really important that you do the full 20 minutes or whatever your recipe calls for. We've turned out the heat. We've let the pressure gauge go all the way down to 0. We now very carefully are gonna take off the weight. We're gonna very slowly open this up. And you wanna open it away from you. Now we're gonna bring these out. They look beautiful. Okay, and we're just gonna wait to hear them pop. They might pop now, they might pop in the next 24 hours. The main thing is that you wanna make sure that you put them in a place where they can stay for 24 hours so that they can completely sealed. So now these have been sitting for 24 hours. You can tell that they have all sealed because the mound is gone and they've all popped. Okay, now put on this nice, beautiful label. These are gonna be good for 6 to 12 months, and now it's perfect to fill your pantry with or use as a gift. So that's it. That's how to make my rustic tomato sauce. This is something that we have now learned to make, to can. Now we're gonna be able to enjoy these fresh, beautiful, delicious tomatoes all year round. I hope you enjoy. I know you can do this at home.